Hey everybody, this is Family Time 238. We're talking about service. This is about giving back to your community. A couple weeks ago we talked about teams. What makes a team different than a group? And I had you thinking about the people on your team. And I wanted you to start thinking a little bit about the type of teammate you are. And that's really service. It's giving back to something in an altruistic way. What that means is you're not looking for anything in return. You're doing it because it's good, because it's right and good to serve the people in our communities, because the high tide raises all ships. We talked a little bit about like tribal societies, and in many tribal societies, if you weren't contributing to the group, you were often ostracized and left to fend for yourself. And in fact, if you were actively doing things that hurt the group, a lot of times in tribal societies, those people would be tortured and killed. And I'm not advocating for that, but it's important to understand how connected we all are. Sometimes it doesn't seem that way. We get a lot of false connections in society now, where we have these kind of social media connections, where it's not a real friendship, it's not a real team. And I worry sometimes we lose some of that. We talked about it, again, we were talking about like tribal societies, how so many people would wind up in a tribal society and not want to return to a more technologically advanced society because they felt a greater kinship, a greater sense of team and family when they were in this tribal community that had to support each other, that had to work to feed and protect each other. It's the same thing we talked about a lot of times when soldiers will return home and maybe struggle to fit back into our society because it seems so disjointed, where they had a situation where people were caring for each other and protecting each other and had each other's backs. So that's what I want you to think about with service. I want you to start thinking of it in terms of how you can serve the communities around you, your family, your friends, the teams you belong to, the extracurricular groups and organizations, and your school. I think we're very fortunate. We have a lot of really outstanding people who want to support our school and our community, our new construction projects, the weight room, the shop. Those are certainly evidence of that. Those things would not be possible without a lot of people in our community who want to see our school continue to develop and grow. And we have a strong tradition of when students graduate from St. Ansgar, many of them still want to be involved or at least follow along with what's happening in, say, athletics and the school, and they want the next generation to be even better. That doesn't happen in a lot of places. A lot of places where once one group leaves, they actually want the next group to struggle because they want to be remembered as this great team or this great group of students that went through. And I think for the most part, we have people who, when they graduate from St. Ansgar, they want the next group to have even more opportunities than they had. They want them to succeed at the highest level. And we have people who give back to help see that happen. And I want to see that continue in St. Ansgar. I just want you thinking about like the ways that you can serve others. And even just thinking of like sports teams, that's something that like worries me a little bit sometimes, as there's more and more emphasis on like travel teams and like AAU teams and things outside of outside of the school athletics. And I'm not condemning those things. My daughters do those things and do the travel teams, and I've really seen some of the benefits that can come from that with playing against different competition, playing with and against higher level competition, things like that. But I always think it's important that is in service of the school team, the school community. And I've had that conversation with players, and I'm not trying to rip on anybody, whatever, but sometimes I know that can be challenging. It's a time commitment, it's an energy commitment. But then, like, maybe, and I'm biased, but I talk to athletes about like getting in the weight room or something, and sometimes they'll be like, well, I work out on my own, or I'm doing this extra thing, so I'm not here. And I'm like, I'm not saying don't do extra things. I think it's great to go above and beyond what we do. That's why, like, our strength and conditioning program, for instance, we try to keep very like basic, so everybody can learn it, everybody can do it, and we don't want people to be sore. We don't want people to like negatively impact their performance. We want us to be able to train and be fast and strong and powerful year-round for all of our activities. But I always just point out, like, if you're doing those other things, that is great, but those things are largely for you, and I want you to take care of yourself. But make sure you're also doing the things that are for us. That's why I'm such a big advocate of like us all lifting together, high school, junior high, male, female athletes, all together. Because it's like we are one group. Even if you don't play a specific sport with somebody else, we're all in this together. And we want to contribute to everybody. So anyway, that's my little like thought. But I want you thinking about those things. Thinking about like, are you serving your teammates, and not just in sports, but in the classroom, in your friendships, in your relationships, in your family? Like, how are you serving others? How are you built for other people? And that goes back to, we were kind of talking about like egalitarian societies, which egalitarian means like equal opportunities, equal rights. And if you have that, if you have like a fairly level playing field, nothing's ever entirely equal or level, but then your value is based more on like, what are you contributing? What are you bringing to the table? I think that's largely how things should be. A lot of times when we want things like equal, we want to be treated exactly like somebody else, but we have to, if it's fair, when we talked about fair, it's based on what are you contributing, what are you bringing to the table. And sometimes we overlook the most important things we can contribute. Like, again, if you're an athlete, if you're statistically 10% better than the next person on your team, in whatever metric you're using, and points scored, whatever it is, that's very statistically significant. But if you are a player of average athletic ability, but you make everyone else on your team 1% better, and you've got 20 people on your team, now that's a 20% increase. That's more valuable than that star athlete who's got the physical abilities. That's more than they're bringing to the table. The trick is, it's harder to quantify. Like, being a great teammate's harder to measure statistically. But it's something that we feel, it's something that we recognize. I often think of a story of Steve Nash. Steve Nash was a professional basketball player for a long time. He won a couple MVPs in, I don't know, the early 2000s, something like that. And I saw like a study that was done with him because they wanted to try to quantify what made him great at that time. And one thing that they found that was statistically very significant was that he led the league in touches, and not touches of the basketball, like physical touches of his teammates. I'm not saying you have to go around and touch everybody, but more than anybody else, he was dapping people up and fist bumping, high fiving, like doing all those things with his teammates constantly. And basically what they were postulating was like this helped with the energy and people feeling his presence and relying on him. So think about how you can contribute to your team this week, how you can be of service, what you have to bring to the table, because everyone has got something special that they can offer to other people. Until next time, much love.